Welcome GRD 122, Graphic Design 2, to our first exercise. This is kind of a loosening up exercise using Photoshop, or in this case Photopea. Since we weren't in class, we'll use Photopea online, and it's worth checking it out because it's very powerful and there's a lot of things we could do online, and it's very easy to share a file with me and still do all the Photoshop kind of things. So there's nothing you're going to really miss out on by doing this. And it's a simple exercise, but it will introduce some more, advanced tools in Photoshop and Photopea as we go. So that's going to be the purpose of this. So we'll try to keep the exercise itself simple, but then we'll add in some more advanced tools. So all that you're going to need to do is just go to a tab and open up Photopea.com. I have it right down here, but you could just search Photopea, and it's like P. Matter of fact, it could even be pronounced Photopea, but I call it Photopea, but that's okay. So you don't have to even create an account or sign in. It'll just be like this, and you can make a new file, or you can open up a file. You could even save files to your local computer. You could even save files online. I'll show you different ways to do that. But for now, I'm not going to open up anything yet. I'm going to go find an image, so I'm going to open up a new tab. And you could just search an image, and we'll try to use something similar and something simple. I'm just going to search black and white farm, just a farm photo, because it'll be real easy to work with. So black and white farm. Make sure I put white in there. Black and white farm photo. Let's try that and see what we come up with. And we'll try to see if we could find something kind of similar. I was thinking of this because it's very simple. There's just a barn and grass and sky. So it'll be a nice, easy practice. Instead of doing something with a lot of detail like you could, we will do something like that where you have a truck and barns and grass and roads, all these kind of things. I'll just stay with something real simple right now because it'll be easier to go over, and then you could kind of, you could apply it to something else if you want to. But I'm going to look for this one. If you see this one in your list, if you go to images, you find this one, black and white old farm stock photos. Just click on this one and make sure you click on it and select it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy image. So I'm going to right click over here, and I'll do copy image, and I'll go back to Photopea. So I'm copying it here first. I'll go back to Photopea, and then I'll go File, New, and you could do the same thing in Photoshop, and I'll call my project Colorize Farm. You put a dash in there if you want, and put your initials. I'll put my initials. And if you don't name it here, you could always go back and double click on the tab to rename it. So it'll be the size that you copied, just so you know. So when you paste it, this size is what I copied. So it's low resolution. It's not really a high resolution. It's just kind of practice right now. So we're going to do Colorize Farm, and then I'll do Create. And nothing's there, but I'm going to paste it. So you could do Edit Paste, or you could do Control V or Command V if you're on Mac or Windows. I use Command V on Mac. You could use Control V. And I think even on a Mac, I think Control V works. Let me just try. I think Control V works. So it does work. So it still uses some of the Windows commands in here. So that's pasted in there right now. And I'm going to zoom in by using Control plus or Command plus and kind of fill up my screen. And it's just like Photoshop. Here's the layer 1. I'll double click on it. I'll call it Barn Photo, and this is saved as a PSD. It's called One Colorize Farm, and if you didn't give it a name, if it just says New Project, you could double click on it and give it a name. And if you want to save it down to your computer, you could just do File, Save as PSD, and save it down anywhere you want. You can put it in Downloads, whatever. I'm just going to put it in, I have a GRD 122 folder. I'll just put it in Notes for now, since I don't have any other folders set up. So I'll just hit Save. And now it's saved. Now, I do want to mention something else. If you're on a Chromebook or something like that, if you choose File, Publish Online, and you choose PSD, it'll store it in Photopea.com. Now, they'll only store it for 6 months, and they'll just give you a random URL. You won't have like a nice, Drive kind of thing, but you can save it here. You can also save it to Drive. You can work out of Google Drive as well, but a nice thing to share a Photoshop file with me is just go to PSD, Photopea.com, and you could kind of work in there. And I'll even show you this method as well, that you could just go here because it's a nice way to turn it in. So I'm just going to go here and hit OK. And what happens when you do that is this is the URL of that file. So you're now working in this. And I can even go back and close this one. Now I still have that on my hard drive, so I could always open it up. But now you have a working live file here that's under this URL, and when you're done, you could share it with me. So whatever you want to do, you could do it this way, or you could just kind of save it like you're working in Photoshop. I'll work on this one, and I'll close this one, and it'll say leave. That's okay. I'll work on this one, I'll zoom in, and I'll show you some things, and I'll see how this works doing it this way. And I just want to point out here, Barn Photo, if you see that little thing on there, make sure you rasterize it. For something else, I didn't have to, but for some reason here, it's making it a smart photo. And even though when you do a smart layer, let's just rasterize it. Let's just go to Layer and just choose Rasterize, just so it's a regular layer right now. That would just make more sense to not confuse us. So it's just Barn Photo, and then if you had a little icon in there, just make it rasterize. So I did Layer Rasterize. Now all we're going to do is colorize this, but we're going to colorize it so that we're working above layers, so we're not messing with the original. That's why we're not going to mess with Barn Photo right now. Now we'll do some easy things here. Let's say you wanted to color the sky. I'm going to go here and add a new layer, and I'll call it Sky. And what I'll do is I'll change this layer's mode to color. And we did this with, covered bridges and stuff in the past. I'm going to change it to color. And then when you paint on this layer, it will maintain the lights and the darks. So if I go to my paintbrush and I choose a color, I'll just go in here and choose like a sky blue, something like this, something real light, not too saturated. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, because I'll show you later that we can change this color after we're done. I'm going to go here, and now it's hard to see the brush size. There's my brush size in this window here. And you could use your brackets on your keyboard just like you can in Photoshop. The brackets next to the P key. Right bracket makes it bigger. Left bracket makes it smaller, so I'll make it nice and big. And what I'll do is with this blue color, I'll be painting on sky, and I'm colorizing the sky. And again, if you don't like the color, don't worry about it. We can change it later, and I'll show you how to do that. Now, I'm going to do this kind of rough right now. But remember, you'd want to change your brush. If you didn't want it so hard on the edges, you could soften it up a little bit. You can adjust the size here too. If you need to get out of here, do this. And also, if you want to zoom in, I'm going to use Command plus, and you could use Command or Control plus if you're on Windows. Now, I'll remind you too that if you ever want to make a straight line in Photoshop or Photopea, if you just click once and then hold Shift, leave go, then hold Shift, and click again, it'll make a straight line. So for going down the roof here, it's nice to click and then go over here and hold Shift and click again. And then this you could kind of do by hand, I guess. And I have a nice big brush. So this isn't that hard to do. And the other areas I'm just kind of filling in. Now I'm not sure what that is. I'll just, I guess, go over that with sky. And if you went over stuff that you didn't want, you could just erase it. Like if you like zoomed in here and you're like, oh man, I put sky on the tip of the roof, you could go here and get an eraser. Now this thing's an eraser right under the brush, and you could actually go here and erase stuff if you wanted to. And if you want to erase it over here, I guess you could for whatever reason. I don't know how that's going to matter. So you can erase because you're only working on the sky layer. If you turn off the layers, this is all we're working on, and you don't see the color because it's in color mode. It only shows up on the layer above it, so that's why you don't see it when you turn off the other layers. So anyway, I'm going to go back to my brush, and I'm painting with this blue color. And remember, hold your space bar. You can kind of move around here. I'll just kind of do this. And again, I'm not doing it perfect. This is just kind of a loosen up exercise just to introduce Photopea, that it's a nice tool to work from home on. And you can do Photoshop stuff. If you don't have Photoshop, it's a good way we can do exercises at home if we ever have to. If you're ever quarantined or anything like that, or we have snow days, that way we can still do stuff, at least in Photoshop. In Illustrator stuff, we can use Gravit as well, which I like. Now I'm going to make the brush smaller to go in here. And sometimes you could even make, choose a square brush, but I'll just make it smaller just to go in here. And again, if you're going along a straight line, I'll zoom out. And that's not a very long straight line, but you remember you could click once, then go to where you're finishing up, hold Shift and click again. It'll make a straight line. And you could even like go up here, go over here, and then make your brush real big and kind of fill everything in. So that's colorizing. Then you can do the barn any color you want. If you're going to do the grass, let me just show you this. If you're going to go here and you're going to make a new layer and call it grass. And you do the same thing. You go to normal and you go down to color. and it's in color mode. Then if you want to paint the grass, you'd probably want to go in some kind of green color. And again, not anything real bright. I'll just go over here and use maybe I'll make it a little more yellower. I'll kind of move this down, something like that. But I want to show you how you could change the color too. And I'll hit OK, and then I'll just do some grass here, and I'll do that, and I'll go up here. And this is real easy. That's why I picked an image like this. That was fairly easy to work with. And I'll make my brush smaller to get this stuff in here. Again, I guess it doesn't have to be perfect right now, since you'll get the idea of how to do this. So far I have this right now. Now I'm going to try to do all the grass real quick. And I could see I missed some sky stuff, so I could go back to the sky layer and go back to my brush. Now here's the thing, if you go back to the sky layer, how do you select that color again? Because if you use the eyedropper, and I don't think they have like recently used colors, you know, these are just little things that pop up. If you want to use that same sky color, what I would do is I would go to sky, I would change this back to normal. So it's just a solid color, and then I take the eyedropper, wherever the eyedropper is. Okay, the eyedropper, I had to look it up, I couldn't find it. It's underneath the crop tool. So there's the eyedropper, and now I'll click on the eyedropper, and there's the eyedropper. It's taking that color and it's putting it in there. And then what I can do is go back and put this back on color, and then it'll paint in that colorize mode. So all I wanted to do is just paint with this. Now you could actually save this as a swatch, I guess. You can go in your swatches and save it, to find new or something, or to save your swatch. I'm not sure how they do it in here. Oh, there, just add it. So I can add that blue color in there, and now I always have it if I ever have to go back to the sky. But anyway, and that would work pretty much the same in Photoshop, although I found that eyedropper hard to find. Would never think to look under the crop tool. So these are some, I'm just putting some sky through here, and again I'm doing it kind of rough, so it's not perfect or anything. And I'll zoom out. But anyway, I'm done with the sky, and there's my grass, and just a couple things I want to point out here. And actually this is a good place to take a break, so let me take a break here and we'll pick up the rest with part 2.